Well, hello there, boys and girls, all my fellow Diecast fans. Welcome back. I hope you guys are doing really good. Really appreciate all your viewership and your comments. It's just, I love reading through some of them. They're just awesome. So I really appreciate it. All right, so today I pulled out of the garage some Hot Wheels, and these castings are going to be from the 1970s and also the 1980s. I think actually most of these are 80s castings, and they're pretty nice ones. I'm going to show them off to you. And I don't have a lot of Hot Wheels in my collection. There's quite a few you've already seen. You already saw my collection of Bustleback Sevilles. You've seen the Hot Wheels Knight Rider cars I've had. And you also saw some of my classics I've got, you know, like from the 40s, the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and things like that. So these are going to be later, more modern cars we're going to take a look at today. All right. So I thought we would start off with the pair of what's called a Stutz Blackhawk. You see spinning on the turntable there. The brown one is my most favorite. The black one's also sharp, but I've noticed that the paint's not quite as nice as the brown one. So, what exactly is a Stutz Blackhawk? Well, it's a special high-end customized car produced by this outfit called Stutz Motors. Now, the Stutz name dates back to the 1930s. They were one of the casualties of the Great Depression. Well, this company that built these custom Stutz Blackhawk cars, they bought the rights to the Stutz name, and they constructed these cars using a Pontiac Grand Prix as their basis. Now, there were three series of the cars, Series 1, 2, and 3. Series 1 would have been based on the 69 through 72 Grand Prix. This is a Series 2 car based on the 73 through 77 Grand Prix, and the Series 3 cars would have been based on the downsized 1978 through 1987. Although I don't even know if they were making many Series 3 cars much past the early part of the 80s. But these cars were bought by the likes of people like Elvis Presley, all your big-time, big-shot sports stars, movie directors, you name it, okay? So what I wanted to do is I have a couple of printouts here I'll show you real quick. This is what a actual Series 2 Stutz Blackhawk would have looked like. As you can see, by the time they get done, it's not even recognizable as a Pontiac Grand Prix anymore. About the only thing you can tell is the cowl area here in the front of the roof, and also maybe the mirror style, and that's about it. That's about the only part of the car that's recognizable as a Pontiac Grand Prix. They change everything, and it's all hand built, and that's one of the reasons why they were so expensive. I think these things went for like $35,000. This is in an era when a Rolls Royce would cost you $40,000. This is what an interior of one would look like. They were completely customizable. You could order them any way you like. You see lots of wood in there, lots of gold tone, chrome. You can see that that's kind of the basic shape of the Pontiac Grand Prix dash. They also retain the Grand Prix gas and brake pedal, but everything else is completely all custom built by Stutz. They did quite a job with these cars. They were very flashy, very glitzy, and the Hot Wheels version kind of reflects that. So this is my favorite. I love the brown with the pinstripes, very sharp. This was an actual spare tire. It was a full-size spare that they put in there. And this is a casting from, I believe, 1979. Yeah, so this was, they would have had the downsized Grand Prix out that year, but they were choosing to do the version of the Series 2 car, which, frankly, I think is the best looking, if you want to call it that. I mean, they're a bit over the top, but of the three, I think that the Series 2 car is the best looking one. And you can also see some of the styling hallmarks of the Pontiac Grand Prix. You know, they were known for this, you know, raised V section in their hood. It was supposed to emulate the arrowhead of their Pontiac symbol. You had those freestanding kind of lollipop headlights along with the freestanding cornering lights. You notice that there's kind of a big gap right here. See, they were trying to evoke the look of the 1930s in a modern package. That was kind of the idea there. And then here's the black version. It's got red and black, or I'm sorry, red and blue pinstripes. You see the paint's not quite as shiny. This is a gloss black, but it ain't very glossy. And by the way, both of these were blister pack cars, fresh out of the blister. You see another custom mark that they did was they made the rear window kind of small. And now the Grand Prix already had kind of a formal roof line. Well, they made it even more formal. This is a very stiff roof line. So yeah, they quite literally changed every single external piece of sheet metal. You know, I'm sure things like the inner door structure, that stayed the same. The cowl was the same. You know, all the what we call the structural hidden sheet metal was basically unchanged. It was all the we call the glamour parts were altered to make this custom car for very, very wealthy, powerful people who wanted to show off. I think also Liberace had one of these too. He's another over-the-top, flamboyant entertainer that was into this kind of stuff. All right, so we got some Stutz Blackhawks there. Let's take a look at some other good stuff we got up here. So I got a trio of real riders I'd like to show you. Let's start with the Jeep CJ7. It's a casting from the early 80s, I believe 1982. Let me tell you something about real riders Hot Wheels. They're kind of expensive. People want a lot of money for these, and these are very hard to find for a reasonable price. And the three I'm going to show you, I actually got for pretty good money. I think only one was a blister pack vehicle. The rest of them were loose, well-preserved cars. This is actually the blister pack one right here, the Jeep. Very nice effort the Hot Wheels did. I love the metal flake paint. Hot Wheels always had the most sparkly metal flake paint. Got some little tools cast into the bed. That's cool. Nicely done with the seats there. That's exactly what they looked like. Got the Golden Eagle on the hood. That was kind of like their version of the Screaming Chicken on the Firebird in Trans Am. Nice effort with the Goodyear emblem on the wheels. This one's got gray hubs. There were some versions that had the white hubs. Little spare tire on the back there. Roll bar. Yeah, just really nicely done. This one's also got a little winch on it. They did a good job with the headlamps and grill. And why not? Hot Wheels always did a good job with their cars. Kind of interesting, it's only got one rivet holding it together. Right there, almost in the middle. There you go, Jeep CJ7. And I think that's the issue date right there. It should say 1982. I remember seeing that on the eBay when they were getting these versions bought up. All right, let's take a look at another one. Now, the casting of this truck is actually from the 70s. They came out with this in 1977. This is called Byway Man. It's a replica of a mid-70s Chevrolet square body truck, as we call them these days. Their version, I think, is a little bit off, though. To me, it almost looks like a cartoon version of a 70s Chevy square body, because some of the details are just a little bit off. The grill is kind of like it. The hood is pretty close. Actually, it's decent. It's a decent effort. The doors are pretty well done. This overhang is a little too short. And the tailgate's done incorrectly. There should be an inset in here where the Chevrolet name would go. They didn't do that. Tail lamps are decent. They made this truck with no dashboard or steering wheel, by the way. It's a complete absence of that. Got the roll bar with the lights on it. And this is another metal flake version that they did. Excuse me, goodness. It is dry in here today, guys. This is what happens when you spend your life in air conditioning in the summer down in Florida. This has got a little winch on it too. Nice Real Riders tires. This one's got white hubs, as you can see. I was always trying to remember which version was more rare, the white or the gray hubs. I want to say the gray. Yeah, you can see right there, issue date is 1977. That's when the casting made its original debut. This is depicted as a two-wheel drive based upon what I'm seeing here in the drivetrain, even though it's supposed to be a four-wheel drive truck. That's so goofy. They got some little dual exhaust on there. But it's a sharp-looking truck. It's just got a lot of incorrectness about it. Here's another problem, too. Almost all of these had this issue here where this front part of the roof between the sunroof and the rest of the roof is always bent. I think it has something to do when they stamped this out for the opening for the sunroof. It's like, guys, adjust your tooling settings, Goodness. I know about that kind of stuff because I've worked for many years in, a tool and die industry with plastics and also metals too. All right, this is another casting from the 70s, but it's a version from the 80s because it's a Real Riders. This was called Baja Breaker. Some people used to mistake this for the A-Team van because the stripe is similar to it, but I assure you it's not the A-Team van. The A-Team van was a GMC Vandura, not a Ford Econoline, which is what this is based upon. And I always thought Baja Breaker has some neat features to it. It's kind of funny. It almost has the same grille as the Chevrolet Byway Man, but this would be a round headlamp version of a Ford Econoline. Got the little plastic opening hood with the V8 engine under there. You could get up to a 460, believe it or not, in a E-Series van, although that would be most likely found in the 3/4 or 1-ton series. The E150 would have had either like a 302, 351, maybe even a 400. But the nice little custom van. Custom vans were real big in the 70s and also the beginning part of the 80s. This has got the roof rack, the little skylight, the porthole windows. That was all very popular. Louvered rear windows. Decently done tail lamps there. Almost has the same chassis as it. You know something, guys? I'm going to tell you something. I think that the Ford van and the Byway Man have almost the same chassis casting. They do. Look at that. That is crazy. There is a slight difference, I think, and it might be the rear bumper, but maybe not. Maybe it's all the same. It looks the same. That is almost identical. You know, I've been looking at these cars for years, and I guess I never noticed that before. That's why the front ends are the same. Look at that. I never realized that. They use the same chassis for both Byway Man and Baja Breaker. That is crazy. Wow. You know, I have to tell you, that's kind of a cheap cop-out that Hot Wheels did there. That's nuts. Got the big captain's chair seats in there. That is wild. I guess I had never noticed that before. You know what? If you guys have those vehicles in your collection, compare them. And make sure I'm not, going crazy here. Okay. All right, let's take a look at something else. Let's look at the Fox Body Mustang, a 4-eye Fox Body, as we would call them today, because they got the 4 individual headlamps. This came out in 1980, I believe. And I think this was actually the first version they did. This is a Hot Ones version because it's got the gold wheels with the really free-wheeling wheels. I love the Hot Ones wheels. They're so much fun. You could put these on the tracks, the Hot Wheels tracks, and they would just go sailing around those tracks. This is a blister pack car. You can probably tell because the graphics are perfect. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. This was not a blister pack. This was a very well preserved, and I'll tell you why. The original seller, they managed to put a Fast Ones license plate on here. How cool is that? And I like how you got these clear tail lamps that are reflecting the red of the interior, so they look like real tail lamps. Yeah, I forgot about that. This was not a blister pack car. It was just very well preserved. He must have had it encased in one of those acrylic cases like I store them in. Really nice model. This one's got a painted base. Yeah, 1980. I think they used to call this the Turbo Mustang, which is funny because the turbo version of this Mustang in these years didn't come out to like the middle 80s. It's called an SVO. This is the way they looked between about 79 and 82. That's the styling that this is representing here. But a very nicely done version of a early Fox Body Mustang. Here's another neat one from the early part of the go-go 80s. This is a Dodge Omni 024. The Plymouth version was called a Horizon TC3. It's really mechanically no different than your garden variety regular Omni. That looks like a Volkswagen Rabbit, suspiciously. So this was kind of the more sporty version. Pretty nicely done effort by Hot Wheels. I mean, just really nicely done. The stripes, the details. It's got a black painted base. This is also from 1980. These first appeared in, I think, 1979. And they made them up, actually, for quite a while. I can remember seeing these made with 4 headlamps in like 86, 87, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's a nicely done car. Once again, with their very nice metallic flake paint. And I always loved this when Hot Wheels would do this too. They would always tool some interesting stuff. So this has got a tennis bag and tennis rackets molded into the hatch area. That's neat. Very cool. All right, this one is one of my favorites. This is cool. So we got about a 1980 or 81 Volkswagen Vanagon. And this is called a Sunagon because you've got this nifty little hatch. I'm going to try very hard. There we go. I have almost no fingernails. So it's a pop-up camper. Let's level it out. There you go. It's a little pop-up camper. Very early 80s shade of orange and tan and brown in the interior there. You got a little motorcycle on the back, which is, you know, kind of funny how they did that. It looks like half a motorcycle when you look at it like this. But, you know, it's just Hot Wheels just trying to be cute, you know. Really good effort with the little VW symbol that they tooled in there. That's really nice. Yeah, this is one of the coolest ones they did. This also came in a blue and light blue version with a blue interior. It's pretty nice. Yeah, see, it's called Sunagon. Yeah, issue date is 1981. A 1980 was exactly the same, though. There was like virtually no difference between the two. Louvered rear end here. Yeah, and the pop-up feature for the camper is really neat. That's one thing about Hot Wheels. Them having moving parts on their cars was kind of rare in these days. All right, moving on. Let's show you another 80s car. Oh, gosh, remember these? 1980 to 81 Citation by Chevrolet X11. That was the sportier version. And this is a Hot Ones version because it's got the gold wheels on there. And this is another nifty effort that they did. It's got the authentic striping. X11s in the early days did have that exact kind of stripes. I like how they always would do a red interior and then incorporate the taillights into that. This one, they tooled in some suitcases. You know, and the funny thing is, when these cars first came out, they were initially well received because as small as these cars were on the outside, they were surprisingly roomy on the inside. And there was 3 body styles. You could get the 2-door hatch like you see here. There was a 4-door hatch, and then there was also a 2-door notchback. And I think the 2-door notchback was the cheapest. That was like the almost like an entry-level one, if you want to call it that. But unfortunately, these cars had a lot of problems. They gave GM an even bigger black eye than they already had by this point. But yeah, this is a blister pack car, fresh out of the blister, perfect preserved condition. Very nicely done. Got the 1980 issue date on there. And you know, I think they really did have that transverse mounted muffler like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But yeah, very nice effort of a car that frankly was kind of a turkey, unfortunately. All right, can't go wrong with one of these. This is about a 1985 Corvette that Hot Wheels did. It's got the relatively rare, unseen on most Hot Wheels, moving parts like opening hood. It's a Hot Ones version. And I love the way they did this two-tone interior. That is really cool. With the yellow and the brown in there. And then in this car, we got a little brown, like a duffel bag, which is about all you could carry in one of these. It's, you know, you and your lady could throw your duffel bags in the back and go have a weekend. That's about all you could do with one of these. You wouldn't want to drive it any longer than that, probably. It's depicting one of the Crossfire injected versions. That's how I'm pretty sure it's either like an 84 or 85. By 86, they had the Tune Port injected V8, which was much better. Nice job with the little tail lamps on there. This is just a gloss red. This one is a well-preserved loose car. There is some bubbling on the hood and the paint. Unfortunately, from age, that happens sometimes on all manufacturers. It's got the painted base. Yeah, it's got an issue date of 1983 because you remember what I told you about these Corvettes. They were actually introduced in like the spring of 83, but were marketed as 84 models because they met all of the safety and emission standards for the 1984 model year. That's a really nice version of a C4 Corvette that Hot Wheels did. Nice job. There's also a silver metal flake version that has like a red themed interior. It's also very sharp. All right, so this is the last one I'm going to show you. And this one's a little beat up. You know me, I tend to pick cars that are, you know, really, really nice. This one was actually sent to me for free as a bonus car by that guy named Jim I told you about up in Ohio. Every time I buy cars from him, He refunds me the excess shipping and cash, and he sends me a bonus car. So this is one of the bonus cars he sent me. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think this Vanagon and this Mustang came from him. They were cars I bought from him. And this was the bonus car he threw in on this particular time. So this is a 1976 casting of about its 1974 Torino. It's a stock car. And this one is, like I said, it's a little banged up. This is like in played with condition. You see there's some, defects, nicks, wear on the bumpers, front and rear. Probably got raced on one of those tracks. They made this Torino Stalker in a lot of versions. I think this was like either the third or fourth version they came out with. These little hood scoops were notorious for breaking off under rough play. I remember that. There were several Hot Wheels cars in the 70s that had those little plastic scoops like that. The original red line 1976 one goes for big money. I think this version came out in either the late 70s or the early part of the 80s. But yeah, Hot Wheels did several stock cars. They did a Monte Carlo Stalker, like a second generation Monte Carlo. There's a Marauder, a Dodge Marauder. How many of you remember those? There's a rare one. And they also did a Fairmont Futura Stalker. I think there's also one of those Bustleback Oldsmobile that says 442 on the side. That was another stock car that did this. So yeah, Hot Wheels did a fair amount of stock cars. So there you have it, my fellow Diecast fans. That's my 80s, 70s, and 80s Hot Wheels collection. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I love showing these cars off and talking about them with you, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed too. So in the meantime, you take care, and we will see you all in the next video.